Welcome to week 4 of Pantry Challenge. My name's Taylor and this is the Birds and the Bees Homestead, and I'm participating in a pantry challenge where I don't go to the grocery store at all in the month of January with a stretch goal of making it until Valentine's Day. Other than a small $25 emergency budget, which I spent 15 of last week on cheese and milk, I'm looking forward to this week. If you've seen my last video, week 3 was absolutely chaotic. We had a banana emergency, a chicken emergency, 2 unplanned dinner parties, which I was able to accommodate dietary restrictions for. So I'm really proud of how I handled week 3, but I would love for this week to just be a bit easier. So I'm gonna try to do my best to do more meal planning. All the chaos that happened last week were not things that I had planned, they just came up. Who knows what will come up this week, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. For now, I'm actually gonna cook breakfast this morning, which I don't do that often. I'm not a big breakfast eater. This is the rest of the onions from my garden. I'm gonna chop those up and caramelize them in a cast iron pan. I knew I had an extra pie crust from making chicken pot pie last week. I'll probably make 1 quiche and then see how much we have left over. I could make apple pie with the rest, or I might make mini quiches in like a muffin pan. I gotta get this rolled out because the recipe I found online says I need to pre-bake this. And I just have breakfast sausage that I pulled out of the freezer that I'm just gonna air fry. I'm just gonna cook those onions in some bacon fat. I love keeping bacon grease and cooking with bacon grease. I feel like in the end, it probably does save me a lot of money on oil and butter, and it adds such a delicious flavor to whatever it is that you're cooking. I'm just gonna roll this pie crust out over here where I've got a bit more room. You probably see me using this massive cutting board all the time. I use it every day. This was a gift from my aunt and her boyfriend, and they live in Newfoundland. He does all kinds of woodworking projects like this, but he also does furniture. He does a beautiful job, and he goes to farmers markets to sell his stuff. But when she came home to visit, she brought this for me in her suitcase, and I just absolutely love it. She is a very big supporter of the Birds and Bees Homestead, so she sees me using this all the time and asked if I would like another one or a larger one. I love the width, but I want it to be a lot longer. So I took some measurements of the biggest cutting board I can fit. This doesn't really fit in my pantry or cupboard, so I like to sit it under my cabinets. So I want the biggest one I can fit in my cabinets / in my sink to clean. I don't know when I'm gonna see her next, but in the meantime, I absolutely love this cutting board. It looks like I have enough to make 2 quiches, which I don't really think we need 2 quiches. So I'll probably just make up 1, and then I'll have to find something else to do with this. I will ponder that while I finish the quiche. Yeah, I've just got the oven almost preheated so that I can pre-bake my pie crust. It says to put parchment and pie weights or dried beans. I do not have pie weights, and I have canned all my beans. So I have this little casserole dish. Maybe this is dumb, but I'm just gonna set the top of that dish on here as my pie weight. I'm not a big pie baker. I'd like to get better at it because I think I've nailed pie crust. The chicken pot pie was so good and flaky and delicious. I'm gonna stick this in the oven. I'd say my onions are done. They're nice and caramelized. Just want to cool them down a little bit before I add them to my eggs so I don't accidentally cook my eggs with hot food. Got the 2 sausage patties cooked. I just want to dice them up really small so they're more bite-sized to put in the quiche. I was thinking that this would be a really nice size mini pie to make a little dessert for Jeff and I, but I think 1 can of my apple pie filling would be too much for this. I did have to stock up on more cheddar cheese at Costco. I'm really hoping that this will be enough to get us through. Let me just dice these up. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So the recipe calls for 1/2 cup of milk, 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. I don't have any cream in my house. I do, however, have homemade Greek yogurt. I think that would be a fine substitute for the cream. I thought about doing just milk, but I didn't think that that would make the quiche filling thick enough. I think the sour cream is gonna work just fine. I just call this sour cream. I use this interchangeably with sour cream because I do not flavor my Greek yogurt when I make it. I figure I can make it and eat it plain just like sour cream, or if I wanted it for breakfast, I can add some sweetener, vanilla. I like to add jam to it. This calls for 4 eggs. I'll freeze these, and when this gets full, I'll probably run it through the freeze dryer. I like to feed these back to the chickens because it's a good calcium supplement for them. Instead of cracking my farm fresh eggs right into my quiche filling, I have not yet had this happen to me, but I see people online, they always crack it into a different container first to make sure that it's not bad. Because if I crack this right in there and I have a bad egg, I just ruin that whole mixture. I have yet to have a bad egg, but I do crack shells regularly when doing this, so I guess that's another benefit of doing it in a container first. It's easier to fish out of here than my filling. Okay, so my timer just went off for my pie crust. I think it said to cook it until the edges were getting brown. I need to bake this for another almost hour once I put the pie filling, and I'm just afraid that it's gonna overcook. So I'm just gonna take it out. I'm setting the smoke detector off. We made a little bit of a mess in the oven last night when we made garlic fingers and pizza. Okay, I just reread the recipe and now it's saying to take out my weight and parchment, put holes in the pie crust, and put it back into the oven for another few minutes. I did not realize there were so many steps to baking pie. Okay, well now that I've got the window open, because my smoke alarm, I think all of my toppings are cool enough to add to the quiche mixture that I'm not going to accidentally make scrambled eggs. One thing I would love to get better at is cooking with a cast iron pan. It used to be so intimidating to me, but now that I am a little bit more experienced in the kitchen, I'm realizing that it's really not that hard to keep things from sticking to your pan if you keep your pan well seasoned. I've been making pizza in my cast iron pan, like a deep dish pizza, and it's so good. So this year I want to get better at making pies, sourdough, cooking in my cast iron. I'm sure there are other things. Now, I wish I thought of this sooner, that I should add some herbs to this. Garden fresh herbs would be best. And I wish I thought of this sooner because I wish that I had put the herbs in when I was cooking those onions, because I think that would give it a lot more flavor. I'll just add them in now, it's not too late. If you haven't seen my pantry tour, you should check it out. I absolutely love this pantry. I do have these herbs that I dried from the garden, but I still need to take them off the stems and I just don't feel like doing that step. So I think what I will add, oh, I think these would be good. Oh, maybe I'll add some jalapenos. I guess maybe we'll just top it with hot sauce afterward. But I've got some garden leeks and I've got some green onions. I think those would be good in the quiche, but I've already got onion flavor from those garden onions. So I don't think we need to be adding that, but that would be good for when we run out of onions. I think I might just add basil and parsley for now. Whoops. Maybe just basil. That was a pretty heavy pour. Okay, the crust is looking good. I also think this is way more mixture than I'm gonna fit in this pie crust, so I might end up making another one with my leftover crust. I've only made quiche once before, but what else I've done with the leftover filling, if I have too much, is I just put them in muffin pans and make egg bites. If you've ever had little egg bites from Starbucks, you can make them so easily yourself. I'm just gonna put a tray in case this boils over. So I already set up my smoke detector once today and I don't wanna do it again because the dogs are stressed out. So let me get this in the oven. I just put the rest of that mixture into this dish and I figure we can cut the egg bites. I did roll out the pie crust so that I can make some kind of little pie. I don't currently have the mental energy to make a decision on what I want to make with this, but at least it is prepped so that my future self just needs to make a filling. For now, I gotta get this in the oven. Now, something I need to deal with. I've had these banana peels out on my deck because it has been frozen. Oh my gosh. Well, for some reason it is warm today. It has been below freezing, so these have been fine on my deck, totally frozen. I've been trying to run those through the freeze dryer. So I think I'll drain the water and put them on a tray and actually put them in my freezer. I do need to get these off the deck ASAP because it is supposed to snow a boatload this weekend. That is just the weather that I have to deal with. It is totally unpredictable. It is warm, it is cold, it's snowy. So let me deal with that. So I think we're gonna have chili for dinner tonight, which would be really good with some fresh homemade bread. My sourdough is not ready for baking right now. This is a goal that I am working on. We are not there yet. So I'm just going to make my favorite, really easy, crusty loaf of bread. I think I have a reel or a YouTube short that I can link with the instructions, but I got this recipe from Frugal Fit Mom. This bread recipe is so easy. You just need to mix 3 cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of yeast. Whoops, I think I added half a tablespoon by mistake, and 1.5 cups of warm water. I like to use whey when I have it in my house, which is just the byproduct of making Greek yogurt, but this is totally not necessary. I think it just adds a little bit more flavor and protein. And I actually freeze dried my whey recently, so that's what I'm adding to this water here. And I'm mixing this with one of my new favorite kitchen tools. This is a Danish dough whisk. This is also not necessary. I used to mix this with a wooden spoon. You can use your hands. Does not matter. You don't need anything fancy to make this bread. So you can see it's a pretty shaggy, pretty wet looking dough. I'm just gonna cover it with a damp towel. A lot of times I'll make this the night before, let it rise overnight. Right now it's 9:30. I'm gonna let it rise all day and bake this for dinner tonight. I got my defrosted banana peels dealt with, and those are in my freezer. While I was in my freezer, I noticed that I started this project last week where I froze whey in ice cubes so I could run through the freeze dryer. Okay, I gotta pop this back in the freezer. I thought I was gonna make good progress on getting my freezer emptied of freeze-dry projects, but I seem to just be adding to my freezer with more freeze-dry projects. That's fine. I'm glad that I'm getting a lot of use out of it. It was a big investment, so we're gonna get our money's worth and keep her running. One idea that I had to use up that pie crust was I knew I had this pistachio pudding in my cupboard. I have no idea where this came from, but I thought this might make a really delicious pie. Pistachio pie, and I've got bananas I think would go good in that, but I just Googled what fruit goes good with pistachio. Google suggested raspberry, and I have raspberry jam in my fridge. So I was thinking that I could make some kind of raspberry pistachio pudding pie. I was just reading the directions on this, and it says to use 2 cups of milk. That's a lot of milk, and I only have 1 carton that I just bought yesterday that I need to last me. So I don't really know if I want to use up 2 cups to make this. I don't think it's gonna work out on the pistachio pie, but maybe in the future I'll have to give that a try. My quiche is done though. That looks so good. I cannot wait to cut into this. This is so flavorful. This is so tasty. And other than all the steps with pre-baking the pie crust, this was so easy. This is so good. Let's shop my pantry and freezer for dinner tonight. I'm going to be making chili. I think that will be a really great way to use up some of these canned beans that I just processed way too many. The recipe calls for a can of red kidney beans and black beans, and I'm gonna double this. So 2 of each of those, and then 2 cans of diced tomatoes. Yeah, I might need to rearrange that. Okay, that's a bit better. I don't want to stack these jars because I think that will cause a risk of it becoming unsealed. And here's my little grocery basket. I only have 1 more can of black beans, 2 cans of kidney beans, and the rest is apple pie filling. So we're making good progress on using up some of these beans. Let me go grab the rest of my ingredients. I did not show you this fridge during my pantry tour. This is our drink fridge. I guess it's mostly a beer fridge. I did not address how much beer we do or do not have in our house for Pantry Challenge because I work at a brewery and I'm not considering beer groceries because I do get beer perks at work. We are not going to run out of beer during Pantry Challenge, but I am gonna need 2 cans of beer. This is a lager for my chili recipe. Okay, I've got another shopping basket. I'm just gonna leave that beer in the fridge until it comes time to throw the chili together because that's gonna be a while. I need a couple of onions. I usually like to keep diced onions prepped in my freezer, and I don't have any right now. So because I'm gonna be dicing onions anyway for dinner, I figure I may as well dice a whole bunch because last week I had so many days I didn't feel like cooking, and if I need to make something quick and easy, it'll help if I already have diced onions. I don't need to bother prepping those veggies. And a viewer of my pantry tour actually suggested that I use up some of this ground deer meat in a chili with a really flavorful sausage. So I thought that would be a great way to use up this. I find this really spicy, which is gonna be delicious in a chili. So I'll do this chicken sausage and ground deer meat. So it's now 4 o'clock and I have yet to start my chili, so I don't think we have time for a crock pot meal. So I'm just going to start cooking up in this large pot, and I need to get my bread baked. This is what the dough looks like. Very sticky. All right, got it shaped into a ball. This is the easiest bread you could ever make. I ended up going for a run this afternoon, so that's why I didn't end up having time to prep the chili, which means I also didn't have time to prep all these onions. When I'm doing a bunch of veggie prep, I like using this chopper. I'll leave an Amazon link in the description box. So now I've got these perfect little tiny dices. I do have a bigger size too if you wanted larger dices. Cooking with the chicken sausage and deer meat. Those are 2 really lean meats. I thought this would be a great opportunity to try my first freeze-dried meal. Fatty foods don't do very well in the freeze dryer, so normal pork sausage that has a lot of fat probably isn't gonna freeze dry well and not have a very long shelf life. So that's why I'm doubling this recipe. Jeff was talking about maybe going camping in a couple of weeks. Yes, he's going camping in January or February. So I thought this would be a really good and easy camping meal that all he will have to do is rehydrate it in a Mylar bag with hot water. We'll keep you posted on that freeze dry project, but I'm excited to finally try a meal. Okay, this is my Dutch oven and it just finished preheating. So I'm just gonna plop my bread right in there. I'll bake it with the lid on for 30 minutes and then take the lid off so it will brown on the top for about 15 minutes. Okay, I think the meat is almost cooked. I'm just gonna throw in a couple of these little garlic pucks that I diced and prepared, and I just keep these in my freezer all the time. Way easier than peeling and dicing fresh garlic. I'm gonna add some salt and pepper and chili powder. And then I did rinse 1 can of black beans and 1 can of kidney beans. I wanted to start with 1 can of each and then go from there to see if we need that second can, hoping we don't overflow this pot. I have been known to do that in the past. I've got my diced tomatoes. I just opened these cans, and I've never struggled so much in my life to open cans. Our Dollarama can opener is at the end of its life. I'd say we got our money's worth, but it is time to get a new one. And I need to add 2 lagers. I'm gonna use Alpine. And 1 extra for me to enjoy while I cook. I think we'll top this with some shredded cheese, and I'm so glad I made that Greek yogurt last week because I like to put sour cream on mine. So I think that'll be really good with those toppings. Maybe some green onion as well. Supper is almost done. It's looking pretty good. I got my onions prepped. I got this huge Ziploc bag. You might see that I use a lot of Ziploc bags. I do try to use these reusable ones, but it's out of my budget right now to be fully stocked on reusable Ziploc bags. So I use them as often as I can, but I'm so happy to have this in the freezer. I think I already showed you that my can opener is toast, so I need to get a new can opener. And clearly today is not my day because as I was prepping those onions, I was using this little chopper. One of the blades came out of place. I still highly recommend this chopper. I've had this for many, many years. I have prepped so many veggies. I've made so much salsa. I do have this larger dicing attachment, so I just finished the onions with this. We are slowly upgrading our kitchen tools. I just got a really nice new food processor that probably has all those dicing capabilities, but I do not have the mental energy to learn how to use that, so I'm just using the old trusty vegetable chopper. I also broke the handle on this knife, which this wasn't a very expensive knife anyway. Another thing that I am slowly upgrading, I don't have very many nice kitchen knives, which is unfortunate because that is something that I use probably the most often. I have one being made right now. Jeff has a hobby of knife making. I got his permission to show you a couple that he's made or is working on. This is the first one that he's made. He also made this leather sheath. This is mine. He made this whole thing, the handle, the blade, the sheath, everything. And this is one that he's currently making for himself. He made sure to let me know that it is not finished yet, but this is very impressive. So once he's done with this one, I have one up next. I think he's working on it right now. So I cannot wait to show you that, and I cannot wait to throw my old kitchen knives in the trash and have a nice new beautiful handmade knife. So I will show you that when the time comes. Look how beautiful. Ow. Okay, it's still a little bit hot. What a beautiful loaf for how freaking simple it is. Like 4 ingredients. You just mix it all together. It's a shaggy dough. You throw it in a ball and bake it, and it always turns out delicious and beautiful. So got my bread done. Chili's almost done. Veggies are chopped. I've got a little bit of cleanup, and I'm gonna call it a night. Okay, supper is done. I just gave this a taste test and added a little bit of salt, and it is so delicious. I'm just going to top this with some Greek yogurt because we don't have sour cream in the house, and some shredded cheese. And then I wanted to cut into my bread. I do have a nice bread knife. Now, Jeff gifted me this for Christmas. You may remember this from last week. We had a little incident. And I don't know if this counts because it's not sourdough. This is a sourdough thing to show the crumb shot. But you guys saw how easy this is. If you've never made homemade bread before, please give it a try. This is the recipe that got me started on making my own homemade bread. If I can do it, you can do it. Give it a try. So I'm gonna slice this up. I'm gonna serve another bowl for Jeff, and we are gonna enjoy dinner. I still have leftover brownies for dessert. I don't have it in me to try to tackle that pie crust, so future Taylor will be making some kind of a little pie. But for now, I'm gonna enjoy my dinner. So today's Tuesday. We've been enjoying the leftover chili for lunches the last couple of days. Last night, I had had a bit of an ADHD spiral and spent all night reorganizing all of the decor and furniture in my house. So I was too busy to make supper. So I had a bagel as a snack. This is all that we have left of that homemade bread. Jeff wanted to make himself a sandwich. I asked him to make me a grilled cheese. So I had a bagel and a grilled cheese sandwich for supper last night. Jeff's actually going to be cooking supper tonight, but I wanted to show you what we're gonna have before he gets cooking. We're just gonna have quesadillas. I thought I had a lot more of these in the freezer. These are homemade tortillas and I'm only counting 4. So we should have just enough for dinner tonight. If I have enough energy tonight, I think I might make another batch of these tortillas. Hopefully I can get that tackled tonight, but we'll use the rest of these in our dinner. I've got homemade salsa verde. This is so precious to me because I grew the tomatillos from seed. So I'm really excited to enjoy that. I've got freeze-dried jalapenos and green onion. Oh, I took this out before I remembered that we had these jalapenos. I don't think we'll have these in our quesadillas tonight, but maybe next year I'll grow more hot peppers and I can make this myself. I've got homemade hot sauce, Greek yogurt. I think I missed this in the pantry tour, but I canned up a bunch of chicken a while back. I was trying to make freezer space for a deer this fall. So I took out a whole bunch of chicken and canned it all up. So I think that'll be the perfect amount for us for dinner tonight. Oh, and some cheese. So I'm gonna tell Jeff that I'm ready for him to start cooking us dinner. I also really need to deal with this pie crust. I found raspberry jam in my fridge. I still have some in my pantry, but there's some in my fridge that needs to be used up. Jeff had the idea that we have cream cheese in the freezer. Is there some kind of like raspberry cheesecake pie filling that I could make? I'm gonna Google and see if that's even a thing, but it sounds good. I'm probably gonna either get started on the pie while Jeff cooks supper or get started on those tortillas. But I'll show you supper when it's all put together and I'll let you know what I end up doing with that pie crust. I've got my tortillas here. I just need to roll them out. Got a frying pan. I should heat this up and I will just do 2 at a time on this griddle. I found a recipe for raspberry cream cheese pie and they were open faced. So I ended up taking that one pie crust and putting it into 2 little mini pies. I was inspired by a recipe. I do not like to measure anything, which can be difficult when baking, as we've learned, because we end up with too much pie crust. Now I think we're gonna end up with too much pie filling, but I might just make like cheesecake bites without a crust. This recipe doesn't actually have you bake the filling. So I baked the crust. I'm gonna fill it with this. I already tasted this and it's really good. It's just cream cheese, called for sour cream and heavy whipping cream. I didn't have either of those, so I just used that Greek yogurt, some powdered sugar. It called for vanilla, but I don't think I added vanilla. I should add vanilla because that would be delicious. I already tasted it and it tastes good. And then here's the rest of that raspberry jam that I wanted to use up. And I think you just put this and then this on top. But I think it might be pretty if I try to do like a little swirl on the top. I don't know if I want to get too crazy. So let me assemble this, get these rolled out, and I'll show you everything when it's done. So here's my attempt at a swirl. These are the globs and this is the leftovers. I think this would also make a really delicious overnight oats, but all I need to do is stick these in the fridge to set. This is a no-bake cheesecake recipe. So my grilled cheese sandwich from the other night was so delicious. We decided to have sandwiches again tonight for supper. So I've got a grilled cheese sandwich. I figured out the best way to elevate a grilled cheese sandwich is red pepper jelly. So good. And we're just having that with some of this chicken noodle soup that we found in that chaotic mystery cupboard of bulk pantry items. So we're gonna have chicken noodle soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. Here is what the soup looks like. And then Jeff and I both just remembered that I made this raspberry cheesecake pie last night. And so we're both really excited to have this for dessert. So I'm gonna enjoy this and we'll do a taste test later and see how this turned out.
This is very comforting.
I like this
Pretty
a lot.
good.
I like this a lot.
I just want to quickly show you my lunch today. I never did update you on these banana peanut butter chocolate overnight oats. I had those for breakfast. I think I'll definitely make those again. That was a really tasty and easy breakfast. For lunch, when I made quiche, I made a little bit of like an egg casserole on the side. And so I just heated it up. I'm going to throw this on one of those homemade tortillas that I made and top it with some Greek yogurt, kind of like a breakfast taco. I've been loving this homemade hot sauce. It'll be pretty sad when I run out. I'll have to make some more. And then I've got a bit of kombucha that I made that I'll have for lunch. So we're going to have breakfast for supper again tonight. I've seen a handful of people online make this meal and I've been inspired to try to make it. I've never even eaten this before. This is what it looks like and it is called a Dutch baby pancake. And it's kind of like pancake batter that you put into a hot pan in the oven. You don't cook it on the stovetop. So we're gonna give that a try. First, I need to get my cast iron pan in my oven preheated to 425. I just need to blend all of the ingredients in my blender here. So I need half a cup of flour, half a cup of milk, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, half a teaspoon of salt, and then I'm gonna blend all that up. Okay, now the recipe says to let this sit for 20 to 25 minutes because that will allow the flour to absorb the moisture. So I'll see you in 20 minutes when I put this in the oven. Okay, so my cast iron is nice and hot, and now I just need to add some butter. Ooh, this would have been good with bacon grease next time. All it says to do is pour the batter on top of the butter. And now I just throw this in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes until it's brown. Okay, while that's baking, I'll just make up some scrambled eggs. This would be really nice if we had bacon to go with this, but scrambled eggs and a Dutch baby sounds delicious. Okay, I'm just gonna scramble these with some milk. I usually love to add chives to my scrambled eggs, but I don't have any. But I do have some freeze-dried green onion. Next year, I'm really hoping I can grow a ton of chives in my garden, and then I'll be able to freeze-dry those and have them on my pantry shelf. Salt and pepper. I also usually love adding Parmesan cheese to my scrambled eggs. But if you saw last week's video, I am fresh out of Parmesan cheese. So Jeff has requested cheddar cheese as a substitute. I am definitely going to be cooking those eggs in bacon grease. This looks so good.
You could top this with any of your favorite pancake or waffle toppings, syrup, berries, whipped cream, jam, Nutella, whatever your favorite is.
What we're going to have with ours, believe it or not, bananas. So I'm gonna top mine with some butter, bananas. I've got a little bit of maple syrup from a local maple syrup farm, and I am gonna sprinkle some powdered sugar. But I really love the sound of Nutella. Nutella and bananas, ooh. Okay, I might do one of each. I'm just gonna add a little bit of butter to one, and add Nutella to the other one. Bananas to both. Powdered sugar on both. And I will drizzle maple syrup on the one that I just put butter. I'm gonna taste test the Nutella. This reminds me a lot of a crepe. That's very, very good. 100% I will make that again. But I will probably serve it more like a crepe next time because it's a little bit easier to eat when it's rolled up. Although I'm sure I'm supposed to be eating it with a fork and knife, but I'm not a fork and knife girly. So I'm gonna get the scrambled eggs finished and we will enjoy our breakfast for dinner. So today's actually Saturday. Last time I seen you, I think we were making that Dutch baby pancake for dinner. I'll definitely be making that again. Jeff and I also had the thought that that would be something really easy to prep ahead of time. Make the batter and put it in a mason jar and bring that with us if we ever go camping somewhere and want to cook that with our cast iron over a fire. That was Thursday. Friday, we had family dinner at Jeff's family's house. We had ribs and wings and dips and salads and fries and matzo sticks, and it was really, really nice. A delicious dinner, and I didn't have to cook. And tonight we actually have a friend's birthday that we're going to, that we are going to be fed again. We finished this week on an easy note, which is exactly what I needed after such a chaotic week last week. I think what I want to do right now is start prepping what I want to make next week to make my future self's life easier. Work is going to be busy this week. I also have a seasonal job that I should be working on right now that I am procrastinating. And I'm gonna start by kind of organizing my freezer. If you remember, this is a new to us freezer. Our last one was totally not functional. And so when I got this one, I tried to do a quick organization, but I want to do a little bit better job right now reorganizing. I just made flour tortillas. I'm going to bring those downstairs. And we don't need these 2 pizza doughs up here. I do have garlic that we use for cooking all the time up here. Way too many bananas up here. Banana. Oh my gosh, is that all? I really thought I had more bananas. I do have more bananas. So I'm gonna bring these downstairs. I'll probably keep this partial bag up here. And then here's another partial bag. I'll condense them right now, actually. We've got 2 bags of broccoli up here. I'm gonna bring one downstairs. Oh, I've got some raspberries I wanna freeze dry. Got some meatballs that I did not know that I had. I keep my yeast in the freezer so it stays better, longer. These are my onions that I prepped. I'm so happy to have these up here. A little bit of pizza sauce left. Some chicken, some corn. Okay, I think that's all I want to keep up here. Now I'm gonna bring this downstairs and pick out some ingredients for some dinners we're going to have this week. Still have lots of freeze-dried projects here. Never-ending pumpkin. Now I have never-ending bananas. Lots of broth. I think that might be it other than fruit. And now I want to take some stuff out for dinner. This is tofu. I want to try a tofu butter chicken or tofu curry. Forgot to grab the coconut milk while I was downstairs, so I just had to run down and grab. I'm just gonna use the rest of this. I have my pre-measured tomato paste from a couple weeks ago, and I grabbed my food scale from my freeze-dry room so I can get my sourdough starter fed. So I'll be able to bake a loaf of sourdough this week. So my starter is not well fed and bubbly and active. So I need to weigh out equal parts starter, water, and flour. So I'm gonna do 25 grams of each. And we'll see how long this takes to get active and bubbly and double in size. And that is when it will be ready for baking. I found this butter chicken recipe a while ago that I wanted to try the tofu for, but I lost it temporarily, so I found a different recipe. This recipe has you marinate the tofu ahead of time. I've never cooked with tofu before, but I've heard that it takes on the flavor of whatever it is that you're cooking it in. So to me, marinating it ahead of time will make it taste a lot better. I will link both of these recipes in my description box. I'm going to do the marinade with this tiki masala recipe, and I'm going to use the sauce from this butter chicken recipe. Because it uses a lot of the same ingredients, I don't want to have to get all these ingredients out twice. I'm just going to measure them all out for both at the same time. Okay, so I think that's as done as it's going to be until my tofu and tomato paste defrost. And now I'll just clean up all of my spices, and I might try to put together a birthday gift for our friend for tonight. I've got this cute little bag that I got at Hobby Lobby. I have some freeze-dried bananas, and I've got saltwater taffy and ice cream sandwich freeze-dried here. And then what I really wanted to do was gift him this apple pie filling and then put together all of the ingredients for the crumble topping. But I am pretty much out of oats. But what I did was put a little tag that said that you could add this to a pie crust, throw a crumble topping on top, or enjoy it as is. They might just want to eat this over ice cream. I just had a great idea. I just got back from collecting my chicken eggs for the day, and I figured I would gift him a dozen eggs. He is looking at getting ducks on his property, which very much excites me. I would love to have ducks someday as well. And so I figured if I gift him and his wife some farm fresh chicken eggs, might help convince her that, wow, wouldn't it be nice to have some fresh egg on our own property? So she can encourage him to get the duck home built. Anyway, and I know that they'll just enjoy these, so I'm going to get these packed up for him. How cute is this birthday gift? I think that wraps up week 4 of Pantry Challenge. I know week 1 was easy, but I'm wondering if this was my easiest week yet. I am so relieved that this week went well. I already got a head start on next week's meals. I'm going to be making that curry. I'm going to try to do a loaf of sourdough, and who knows what else we'll get up to. So if you're interested in following along, I encourage you to subscribe. And if you haven't seen any of my other Pantry Challenge videos, I encourage you to go check out my Pantry Challenge playlist. I think we're doing really well. I'm feeling really good after this week, and I am looking forward to next week. But we will have dinner with our friends tonight. I'll bring him his birthday gift, and just gonna enjoy the rest of the day, relax, hang out with my pup, and I will see you next week for week 5 of Pantry Challenge.